It's Divas That Care Radio. Stories, strategies, and ideas to inspire positive change. Welcome to Divas That Care, a network of women committed to making our world a better place for everyone. This is a global movement for women, by women, engaged in a collaborative effort to create a better world for future generations. To find out more about the movement, visit divasthatcare.com after the show. Right now, though, stay tuned for another jolt of inspiration.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Divas That Care. My name is Candace Gish. Well, guys, I'm excited today. Brianna Kuhn is back, and I'm so excited to hear what is new and exciting with her. If this is your very first time tuning into the Divas That Care, a huge welcome to you. The Divas That Care is now in its 11th season. We are listened to in over 30 countries around the world. And it's because of all of our amazing listeners that we've continued to grow and have these amazing guests on our program. So thank you so much. All right, as I said, we're having our returning guest, Brianna Kuhn, back in the house, and I'm so excited to have her. So welcome back, Brianna.
Thank you. I'm so excited to come back. I always really enjoy our episodes.
Well, you know what? It's so much fun. And you always teach us so much amazing things. But before we kind of get started to that, Brianna, would you reintroduce yourself to our listeners today?
Of course. So like you said, my name is Brianna, and I am the owner of Limitless Impact Virtual Management, and I am a virtual business consultant and social media strategist.
And you do such an amazing job. And for our listeners that haven't heard Brianna before, Brianna came on our program and she developed an amazing business through all this craziness that we've been dealing with in the last 18 months. And you know what? That's kind of the thing I want to talk about today is developing a business and social media tips during this pandemic that we've had. So Brianna, would you mind kind of sharing with us why that is so important?
Yeah, thinking about the topic today, I thought this would probably be the best way to kind of talk about it. And, we're in Alberta right now, and, the pandemic is definitely still very active here, which is very unfortunate. And my heart goes out to all the families that have lost a loved one or who have really struggled during this time. I've been very fortunate and blessed to find success during this time, but I know that's not the case for everyone. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this is for businesses that are struggling to create a social media strategy during this time, because the pandemic has really changed a lot of things that we used to use and that used to work with social media. So I wanted to touch on a couple points to help you and your business find a little bit of success on social media during this time.
What a great topic, and I really appreciate you coming on and talking about that because you're right. It's such an important thing for us, really to discuss with, small business owners out there.
Yeah, 100%. And, to kind of kick it off, with no matter where you are in the world, the social media platforms, it doesn't matter which one, there's a lot of noise about what's going on, and trying to create a voice for yourself and your brand to kind of push through that can be insanely challenging. But there's some key points that you can use in order to kind of break through that noise to increase your engagement. And so I wanted to touch on a few of those points. So one of the first ones is timing is everything. So, and that comes down to what's called social listening. So for Alberta, for example, last week, we had a press conference that was released by our premier, and the internet kind of went on fire afterwards. So that wouldn't be considered a good time to post anything. So
no,
when you, so when you take into account when major things like that happen, a good rule of thumb is you want to, if you're going to be, releasing a new product or a new course or have some sort of product or whatnot that you are wanting to get a lot of engagement on, you want to be cautious and make sure that you're not releasing any of that social media around the same time as a really dramatic thing happening in the news, for example. So a good rule of thumb is waiting at least 48 hours for that major headline just to kind of subside. And then the other point is shifting the voice of your brand. So something that's really important is to have some stability for your audience in the ever-changing times that we have in front of us. And so continuing to be super compassionate and having a human tone for your voice and for your brand is so crucial. So, creating content that is insanely relatable to what your audience is going through right now. And that's something that, is a rule of thumb for social media, whether we're in a pandemic or not. And then the other really important thing is actually remaining active. So when we're dealing with these extremely challenging times, social media usage has gone up dramatically. People are more at home. They're looking for ways to entertain themselves. So screen time has drastically increased. So, and that actually leads me into my next point, which is COVID has actually changed the best times to post on social media. And I've been keeping a very close eye on this the last little while, but for the different platforms, I'm actually going to go into the times that are actually the best to be posting right now. Okay. So for Facebook, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 10 to 11 a.m. is going to be your crucial window. Instagram is going to be Monday, Tuesday, and Friday at 11 a.m. and Tuesday at 2 p.m. Twitter, you're going to want to do it early in the morning, so anywhere between 7 and 9 a.m. And then LinkedIn, it's Wednesday at 3 p.m., Thursday at 9 between 10 a.m., and then Friday from 11 a.m. to noon.
Wow. So, and how did you figure that all out? Because a lot of our listeners are probably thinking, oh my gosh, that's a lot. And I'll remind all of you to make sure that our show is recorded so you can go back and re-listen to all that again.
Yes. So this comes from a lot of research that I've done, speaking with other people in my industry who really watch the analytics of social media from their own accounts, as well as our clients, as well as, Instagram, Facebook, they're owned by each other. And if you look in the right places online, you can actually see that they actually release the data like this. And so when I was preparing for this episode, I did a lot of homework to actually figure out what they've been releasing the last little while, to basically do that work for you guys.
That's fantastic, because, a lot of us, and myself, I would not know. I'm like, oh, you just go on there and you post. Does this change all the time? Because that's pretty amazing. Like you're saying, this is happening now. So do you find that this changes all the time?
It does go up and down throughout the year, depending on the season, around holidays. But for the most part, it really does kind of stay around, the same days. Sometimes the best times fluctuate a little bit, but this is the biggest change that I've seen in what actual days and time of the day, from morning to afternoon, if it actually changing dramatically. Before it used to be that Mondays were going to be your best day for posting, but now typically it's the worst day because people are back into that work day or the work week and are focused on that. And then they try to start the week off by saying, you know what, I'm going to decrease my screen time, not go on my social media as much, which is a good thing. But so like those little shifts there, it's been quite interesting to see what has actually changed and what has, somewhat stayed the same.
So, Brianna, does it matter what time zone, though? That's probably, because we have listeners throughout the world here. What time zone, or does it really matter? That's based on your time zone.
So it's based on your time zone. So these times that I'm giving you, it doesn't matter what time zone that you're in. It's, say you're in Pacific time or, Mountain Standard Time, which we're on. It's just that, for Twitter, for example, it's Friday between 7 and 9 a.m. So it doesn't matter what time zone you're in as long as it's between 7 and 9 a.m. That is what the statistics are telling us.
Okay.
And, yeah.
I find that very fascinating because you would think, okay, well, does it matter, if I'm in Eastern Standard Time or if I'm in Mountain or if I'm in Pacific, did it really matter? But you're saying that it really doesn't matter.
No, it really doesn't. Something else that has been really interesting is there used to be this magic equation, I guess you could say a few years ago, that came out that basically said, if you're posting X amount of posts on Facebook and X amount of posts on Instagram per day, per week, whatever, you would reach this kind of like optimization, like peak optimization of your account to get that top engagement. But the pandemic has changed how often we should post as well. So Facebook outgoing posts have actually decreased on average of 1.8 posts per day. Instagram outgoing posts have decreased by 1.9 posts per day. And Twitter saw the most drastic change with it decreasing by 2.3 posts a day. So that actually shows that you don't have to be posting as often as what people typically say you should now. So as long as you follow the...
I was going to say, what is your recommended then for the number of posts that you should be doing? Because that's a huge thing. And, you're right. Yeah. We've always told, okay, you got to post, a couple times a day, and you got to make sure that you're engaging with your people. And now you're saying we don't need to, which is probably a relief for a lot of our listeners right now that are trying to find the time just even to keep going.
100%. And honestly, typically when I get asked this, I always say you got to do what feels good for you and your business, because if you're trying to meet a certain quota of posts to do per day, per week, your content typically suffers because you kind of have a hard time usually with creating different content if you are posting 5 times per week, for example. Sometimes your content can be a little bit stale nearing the end of the week because you run out of ideas. And, this is something that happens to me all the time. So I'm not trying to call anyone out or anything like that, but you got to do what feels good for you. But typically, a good rule of thumb, if you're wanting to meet the high end of posting, you would want to do at least 3 to 4 posts a week. But if you're kind of wanting to be on the lower end, middle of the pack, honestly, you only have to do 1 to 2 posts, like feed posts per week. With stories, you really should be doing it at least once a day. And because stories is where it's at, as well as those 30-second clips that are Instagram Reels and Facebook videos and stuff like that. For those, you want to do at least 1 to 2 a week. Those are where you are going to see insane growth and insane engagement. And one thing that I've noticed for my content and my Instagram account is for Instagram Reels, if I post it between like 5:50 to about just before 7 o'clock p.m., my views on it are insane. Like, they are instant and they grow rapidly within 2 hours of it being posted during that time frame. I don't know why, but that's what I have noticed.
So, Brianna, for some of our listeners that might not understand what you're talking about in regards to the stories and the reels, can you just kind of do a highlight? I know we've had shows in the past about them, but I'm thinking about some of the new listeners today.
Yeah, so a story, and it's kind of crazy because LinkedIn now has stories as well, but there's Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn stories. And those will last 24 hours, so one day, and then they disappear. Instagram, you can save them to your highlights, which is just underneath your caption on your profile. And then for Instagram Reels, if anyone is familiar with TikTok, it's basically Instagram's version of TikTok, where it's a quick, quirky video. You want to capture the viewer's attention within the first 3 seconds of them watching the video so that they watch the full thing, and then that counts as one view. Same thing with Facebook. You honestly, for my Instagram Reels that I use, I make them in the TikTok platform. I post it to TikTok, and then I cross-post it to Instagram and then Facebook. That is the easiest way that I have found to do it. There is a ton of apps that you can, shoot that kind of video as well as edit it. But honestly, the TikTok platform, I've found is the easiest way to make those videos. There is a ton of tutorials on YouTube and the different social media platforms on how to create those videos. I know it can seem super daunting at first. You just got to kind of jump into it with both feet and just give it a go. You can create a bunch of videos. You never even have to post them. Like, I think I probably still have like 8 to 10 draft videos that I've never posted where I'm kind of like, I don't know if I really like that one. But, this is something that's another point in this whole thing, is that it's time to explore new things and, new types of content, the functionality of the platforms that you're using. Like, use this time to experiment.
How important is it? Because I think people are playing like videos. Why would I do that? I want to be professional. Why is it important to get that out there? So the way that social media has kind of steered into is, yes, feed posts are still very important, but if you're wanting to see increased engagement, increased growth for your account, video is key. Because it's honestly mindless for the viewer, I think is the best way to explain it. Because even for myself, when I'm relaxing on the couch, just looking for that kind of doom scroll escape, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram Reels, I'm on the Facebook videos. I hardly scroll through my Instagram actual feed anymore. I'm looking at my Reels because I find it more entertaining, because I don't have to sit there and read a giant long paragraph that's underneath a photo. The videos are super easy. Yes. They're like anywhere from 15 to 30 seconds. They make me laugh, or, they inspire me, or they give a really good tip or trick for whatever topic. That is where social media is right now. Everything's changing, isn't it? It's amazing. The evolution of how social media is I always find it's quite interesting.
100%. And, the reason why it's changed this way is ultimately because of TikTok. Instagram Reels is what Instagram released to compete with TikTok. And you'll see, like, when you're scrolling between Reels and on Facebook, all of those videos are typically originating from TikTok.
Isn't that amazing? Well, and this is why I'm full that you, for your knowledge and, when you come onto our program, because you really highlight so many things that, for myself, I would not know anything about. And I want to kind of do a shout out to how you help people grow their business, because you are a virtual business consultant, you help businesses do that. So I want to shout out to your business now. Let's talk a little bit about that and how you can help some of our listeners that are thinking, okay, this is still overwhelming. I understand the concept of why we need to do it. So why do we hire people like you to do that?
Yeah, so I have a couple different ways depending on what you're looking for. So I have one-on-one coaching where we take that deep dive together into your social media and look at what you're doing now that's working, what you can improve on, figuring out what your true voice is on social media is something that I find people struggle with, and they typically bounce around with from post to post. So that's something that we can work on, as well as I do social media management. So we can work on a partnership together to figure out what works. So if you want to provide me with the graphics, and then I write the written content, or vice versa, or if you basically just want to hand me the keys of your social media and then just tell me to run with it, I can do that too. So it's definitely something where we find the perfect balance for yourself and your business and what I can assist you with to take a little bit of that pressure off for you.
I love that because we are busy. We're always trying to expand and change and with all what's going on, it's really important to have somebody like yourself that has that knowledge. I always say you can't build your business by yourself. You need to surround yourself with amazing people that can assist you and that have expertise in certain areas. And it relieves so much pressure and stress.
Yeah, and it's funny because this just came into my mind, but it usually equates to raising a child, but it truly does take a village to grow a business.
Yes, it does. Oh, my gosh. Brianna, I have learned so much from you. I just want to ask you one more thing. I know that on our last program, you had announced about a book release, an anthology that you were a part of. Would you mind, sharing a little bit about that with us?
Yeah, of course. So myself and over 20 amazing women from around the world who are female entrepreneurs like myself and you got together, and we each wrote a chapter for a book, and the book is called The Female Entrepreneur Playbook. It is planning to be released the beginning of October, so we are getting so close, and I'm so excited. You'll also be able to order the actual physical copy of it when we do release it in October. But for right now, you can purchase your pre-sale of the digital copy. So you can do that through iBooks as well as on Amazon for Kindle. And when you do purchase the pre-order for the digital copybook, if you submit your email, it says this in the bio of the text when you actually purchase on Amazon or iBooks. But if you actually send in your email, you will get access to over $1,500 of freebies from us fellow authors that are in the book for tips and tricks on, being an entrepreneur, stuff for social media, branding. There's so many goodies in there. So it's definitely something you should check out. And it's for 99 cents. So there's a huge upside that you get all this access to this free stuff. You'll get the digital copy of the book for 99 cents. So it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. Well, we're so excited for you because I know that this book is going to be absolutely amazing. Last minute, Brianna, do you have any last minute tips, tools, anything you'd love to share with our listeners?
honestly, I'll leave it at this. You know, it's been a whirlwind of almost 2 years. We've been through a lot. And just make sure to take care of yourself. You don't need to ask permission to take a break. You just got to do what feels right to you with your social media as well as everything else in life.
That's perfect advice. Thank you so much. That is
You're
wonderful.
welcome.
Thank you so much for coming on our program.
For having me. Yeah.
I love it. You know what? For all of our listeners, Brianna comes on our program every month, and we're so excited that she is teaching us all about social media and how we can improve our day-to-day business operations also. So make sure that you check Brianna out next month and all of her recorded shows at Divas That Care. Brianna, I'm so looking forward to having you on again next month, and I hope you have a fantastic day.
Thank you so much, and I will talk to you all next month.
Thank you. And a huge shout out. You know, it's because of all of our listeners, as I mentioned at the beginning, that we've continued to do this now for 11 seasons. You can check out all of our other hosts at divasthatcare.com. And I hope that you guys do something kind. So until next time, everyone, take care.
Thanks for listening. This show was brought to you by Divas That Care. Connect with us on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course on divasthatcare.com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss a thing.